All right, let's go. Let's give it a shot. There we go. All right, and we're live. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Multiverse Show, Season 5, Episode 8. We are getting started tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry about the little technical difficulties at the beginning. As you guys know, my life is just great right now. Anyway, so we're going to get things started. First off, we have our introductions for the evening. First off, we have the Baron of Britain, Mr. James Wilson. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Was there a particularly funny thing about Britain that... I mean, most of it's fucking hysterical, I get you. Hello, everybody. It's me, James _S. Wilson. I am your awards season goblin. I have emerged from my cave, and I have loads of statistics ready for you all. That's not true. I have some statistics, but there we go. Aren't we all excited?
Mm-hmm. We also have the White Wolf, Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hey, everybody. It is good to be here. Let's get the show on the road.
All right. And we also have our guest for the evening, Mr. Doc Squiddy from Twitter, the writer for Adios, a new game coming out later this week, which we will touch on a little bit later. Sir, how are you doing tonight?
I'm conscious. Thanks to the power of Monster Ultra Sunrise Energy Drink TM.
Ooh, Sunrise.
You know something? I've heard many historical figures like to drink that drink while traveling around North Carolina. That joke is funny for absolutely nobody.
For me, in North Carolina, it is.
Maybe four.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm also the director of Adios, for the record.
Nice.
That whole thing. My pitch, my game. I'm a little not touchy about it, but that happened to me in another game where people started saying I was just the writer for it. It was like, no, I created the whole thing. I did all of that. So
thank you for correcting me, sir. You know I would never try to intentionally get something wrong.
Oh, for sure.
It's been one of those days.
It's more of a reflex. Yeah. So this is my next game, and I'm directing. I wrote the whole script, and we can talk about it later.
All right. But first off, the question we ask every single week: what have you guys been playing? And Doc, we'll start with you, sir. What have you been up to?
Oh God. So because I'm trying to ship a game, I'm in that funk, right, where you're like, I need to play something, but I don't know what to play. So last night I played Yakuza 0, Bloons TD6. Played a little bit of like 3 other games, just trying to find, something to stick with. And I think I spent the most time in Yakuza. But I feel like a steam. Oh yeah, I also played Umurangi Generation, which is amazing. Played some Loop Hero. Just finished up Serious Sam 4 and LA Noire. So I've been playing a lot of kind of random stuff all over the place. But yeah, I spent quite a bit of time in Umurangi and Yakuza 0 last night for sure. And those are what I'm playing right now. They're really good.
Nice. All right. So Sam, what have you been playing, sir?
Yeah, really quickly. I haven't had a lot of time to play stuff, but I did pick up Little Nightmares 2. Really enjoying it. I enjoyed the first one, but I had a couple of issues, like with the controls and a couple of other things. This game is really improving on what I didn't like about the first one and keeping everything I liked. Really, really enjoying it.
Right. So, James, what have you been playing, sir? Or you've just been stuck on the awards season entirely?
I have. I've been playing games, but mostly just like I've been really. I've started a new career in Formula One, hyping myself up for the start of the season again next week, and I am urging everyone who has a Netflix account to watch Drive to Survive, which is the F1 documentary series following the teams. I think as people involved in gaming and like people who like games, F1 is like the perfect sport because it's constantly evolving. If there's a problem, they fix it. And it's a brilliant sport and a brilliant series. F1 Drive to Survive. It's perfect. And other games, I am so close to my Bloodborne Platinum at the moment. I've got to the final level of the Chalice Dungeons. Queen Yharnam is in my sights. I'm about to get all the weapons, this is a thing it hasn't taken 6 years, but we're approaching the 6-year anniversary, and I'm going to try and get it on the day. So this is my mission for the next 8 days.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah.
All right. Excellent. I myself have been kind of a gaming nomad for the week in particular. A little Fallout 76 as usual. I've been getting back into Division 2 for a little bit. I also have been playing around with some Bethesda titles and trying out some new things. One of which I tried the FPS boost on Fallout 76 actually just a little while ago. Interesting. It's not like it definitely feels like 60 FPS, but it feels like the video quality is maybe a little worse, just a tiny bit. It's not like an official support patch though. I just tried Skyrim. I made a new character on Skyrim over the weekend, and with the 60 FPS boost now, kind of weird. Like it doesn't feel like it's quite there. It doesn't feel solid yet, so it's just kind of off. But other than that, I'm just kind of doing whatever. All right, so first off, we got to ask our resident movie expert, Mr. James Wilson. Sir, there's been some awards season coming through. I believe it's time for our yearly update. Please lay it on us.
Okay, so I am not going to run through what happened at the Golden Globes because, frankly, as I said before, the Golden Globes is a party that for some reason is given media attention. What is amazing is the Bafta nominations that came out a few days ago, and today, the Oscar nominations. Now, I will quickly run through the Baftas. There are some admin things that are very good that it's important to recognize. I've said before that the big problem with the big award ceremonies is how actual films get nominated. Usually what happens is everyone who is an actor will vote on the acting awards. Everyone will vote for the acting nominations, I should say. The writers vote for screenplays, the casting directors vote for casting, etc., 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 etc. What's bad about this is that it lends to popular as opposed to excellence. Obviously, good stuff does get through occasionally. In the Guild Awards, it's not done like that. It's done by jury, the same as film festivals. So at the beginning of every year, about between 30 and 40 people get told you're on the jury for nomination selection. The BAFTAs have done this year. So you have a crazy widespread of films from a bunch of different films. So you don't have one or two films dominating every single category. Of course, there are things that have the most. Nomadland has 7 nominations, Mank has 6, Promising Young Women has 6. But the rest of the stuff, some stuff has 5, 4, 3, 2. There's nothing that has just 1, which is a bit odd in this situation. The other big thing is that the BAFTAs this year are having 6 nominees for the acting categories, despite only having 5 film nominations, also having 6 nominations for director. Now, the breakout star of this award season has been a woman called Emerald Fennell. Emerald Fennell, for this, she is the director, writer, and producer of Promising Young Woman, the Carey Mulligan film about a woman who goes to bars, pretends to be drunk, and takes advantage of men trying to take advantage of her. I hope that I get to see it very soon because it looks amazing, and it is sweeping up nominations at the moment. Obviously, as a British person, there is a bit of a bias towards her in the BAFTAs, but if we go to the Oscars, for her debut feature, I might add, a debut feature, she has a Best Director nomination, Best Picture nomination, and a Best Screenplay nomination. That's goddamn crazy, and I applaud her for it. Also in the Oscars, we have 2 female-nominated directors in the same category for the first time in history. Huge deal. Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. She's going to be directing The Eternals for Marvels later in the year. She is the absolute favourite to take this category, as is the film Nomadland. Haven't seen it yet. Hasn't been available in the UK. I believe it's coming to Disney Plus in April. So that's something to look forward to. Another big controversy, in air quotes, from the Oscars today is that Judas and the Black Messiah, this is the new film from Ryan Coogler, who did Creed and Black Panther, starring Daniel Kaluuya who was the star of Get Out, and Lakeith Stanfield, who most of you will know from Atlanta. He's also he's the guy who says "Get Out" in Get Out, and he's brilliant in the lead in Sorry to Bother You. They play the title characters Judas and the Black Messiah in the film called Judas and the Black Messiah, and neither of them are nominated in leading actor. They're both nominated in supporting actor. Now, that is stupid. Here's the thing about it. It's not as ridiculous as people are making it out to be, for one reason. Chadwick Boseman is nominated in Best Actor and almost certainly will win. This isn't me being political about it. There is a huge history of posthumous nominations, especially in acting categories, going towards the actor. It also happens that it's a brilliant performance. This is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I'm talking about the Netflix film based on the August Wilson play. I am not going to run through all the nominations in all the categories because we have a guest who wants to talk about his games. Quick stuff that's important to know. I mentioned Minari, which is the American film about Koreans, about a Korean family moving to America, this great American story, and how in the Globes it was nominated in foreign film despite being produced by Americans, starring Americans, about America. You know, what's more American than foreigners moving here and making a life for themselves? It's literally the American dream. Happily, this has been rectified in the Academy Awards as nominated for Best Film, for Best Director. Stephen Yeun as the lead. You know him as Glenn from The Walking Dead. He is the first Asian American ever to be nominated in Lead Actor. Record breaker. There you go. The film has racked up a bunch of nominations. The exact number is, Minari has 6 nominations for the Oscars. The Oscars' leading nominator is Mank, the David Fincher film. It's nominated in just about every category it can get its hands on, including all of the technical stuff. I think that's all the major news. Notable snubs. The Five Bloods, frankly. Watch it. It's on Netflix. It's amazing. Delroy Lindo, one of the main characters in that, should have been nominated in leading actor. Other than that, it's a really good year for movies. Not in terms of like quality, because so many stuff didn't come out, but the amount of diversity, especially towards women and people of color. Well, that is what diversity. It's very late here when I do these. You know this. But yeah, this is a really, really good sign for awards going forward. I can only praise the Academy and the British Academy for their nominations. It's just a bunch of good stuff all around. And there is criticism from people saying that, oh, but most of these films haven't come out yet. It's always been this way. And especially in this year of all years, is that really the first thing on your mind that you won't get out in the cinema right now to see all the Oscar nominations?
Yeah.
Pick your battles, people. What this is going to do is going to give you a list of films to see when they all release, and they will release because they've all had Oscar nominations. So nice. There we go. That is the awards gremlin coming out for a little bit. You will see him again at the awards after 11th of April for the BAFTAs, and the 15th. The 15th of March was today, and the 25th of April for the Academy Awards. There we go.
All right. So we have
a bunch of interesting stuff there.
Yep, that's true. All right, so we have Doc on here to talk about his game coming up actually this Wednesday. So Doc, tell us a little bit about Adios, this project here. How long have you been working on this?
Did you cut out for anybody else?
Oh.
A little bit. He basically just wants you to talk about audio.
Yeah, no. I heard that. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't the podcast wasn't dropping.
Oh no, that's good.
So first, I'm going to tie this back to something mentioned earlier. The screenwriter for The Five Bloods, Kevin Wilmot, is the man who taught me how to write.
Wow.
Oh wow.
That's my screenwriting teacher. He actually is. He lives like an hour away, but he teaches at the school that's just up the hill from me, which is where I went to school, KU KU Film School.
Yeah, well, I don't need
yeah,
to tell you how good that film is.
I actually haven't seen it yet. I'm going to. I just
You're gonna go
What the
tell him
hell are you
now.
doing on this podcast, sir?
yeah, I don't have Netflix, so I actually haven't seen it. Wrote a Black Klansman, which he won an Oscar for. So he's a great writer. I got to help him on indie films, which is actually where I kind of got my background in. Like I've written for years, right? But it used to be like Naruto fan fiction. Digimon and Naruto, and then eventually I moved on and I started writing, actual stories and did an experimental game that did pretty good. It won some like Game of the Year awards. I think Vice said it was the most important first person game of 2018 or something like that. But that one was me doing an experiment, which was like, first person games. Can we make games about more than just like walking and listening to a story or shooting things? Like, can we actually make like a first person game where you do interesting things? So did the first game that was called Paratopic, and then decided that I wanted to have kind of a different development environment. Moved on, put together a team, and I'd read a story about a lady who had a seizure and passed out in her pig pen, and the pigs like ate her. This would have been like 2019, like January, February. So I made a tweet because I was just, that story hit me. The sadness of like this person who, probably cared for these animals and then didn't survive, basically.
Yeah.
And it was like, man, to think about like caring for and feeding a bunch of animals and then just be kind of callously, eaten alive. That's kind of a horrifying, and sad vibe. And so I took that kind of emotional kernel, and it took this idea that I had for, how do we make more interesting first person games? How do we interact with the world more, right? Like photography or, fishing or, a bunch of different verbs like that, right? How do we take all those and we put that into something interesting? And so I tweeted something like, thinking about a video game where your pig farmer has decided he no longer wants to dispose of bodies for the mob. And a couple people replied, and they're like, that sounds really funny. And to me, I was like, no, I mean, it feels sad to me. Like sad in the way that goodbyes are sad, And from there, about a month later, we were at GDC. And we pitched it to a bunch of different people, and ID at Xbox was like, hey, this sounds really cool. Here's a little bit of funding to get started. And then we used just that to make the game. So it's a very tiny game. It's just one location. You're on a farm in Kansas, and you are telling the guy who, kills people for the mob, I can't help you anymore. Like I can't do this anymore. Literally, I think the first line of the game is, I can't do this anymore, in farmer accent. And that's the whole game, is this guy who's kind of, you're friends in a way, right? And he doesn't want this to end. He also knows how it has to end if you can't change your mind. Anybody else, he probably would have just shot him. But for you, he wants to convince you. So the rest of the game is the two of you basically talking about whether or not he has to do this or whether or not you have to do this. And you're doing that while you do things like milk goats or, throw horseshoes around or whatever. There's a bunch of different things you can do. That's the game. It's just another tiny experiment. We paid everybody like really well for the size of the game. Like I think I paid people on Adios what I was getting paid on Hard Space, which is like, with Blackbird, a team of like a couple hundred people. I mean, they're not all working on that. They're also working Homeworld and stuff. But like, I paid them like what my day rate was basically to make this. I paid people better than a lot of indie projects do, because somebody once told me a mantra that was something like, make worse games, or I want to play worse games by people who get paid better and work fewer hours or something. And that's pretty much the goal, right? Is I want to make sure that my team is taken care of first and foremost. So we built a game. It's not a very ambitious scope. It's, I have no idea what people are going to think, because it's a melancholy game, right? Like horror game. Yeah, I know what that's going to be, because people know horror games. Melancholy game is not a game that people even parse as a genre. So I have no idea what the response is going to be.
Hey.
Yeah, that's my pitch.
That's great, man. I know as soon as you announced that you were making this game, I was definitely interested from the get go. So it is currently available on pre-order, but does launch on Wednesday, right? Pretty sure it's Wednesday or Wednesday
Yeah,
for
it'll
here in
be
the States.
midnight Eastern.
Yep, they'll be launching at that
Midnight Eastern.
time
So
for
like
about
right,
$18.
yeah, $17.99. Some people have been saying that it's on Game Pass. We've never said that, and it is not on Game Pass. I want it to be on Game Pass. Yes, if Game Pass reaches out to us and says we'd like to have you on, that would make me really happy. But so far, Game Pass has not said that they want us on there. I really want it on. If y'all want to start a campaign to get us on Game Pass, just put up like a huge petition or something. Maybe Game Pass will listen to us. But right now I think they're full up for a while. So we're making a tiny little narrative game. Like when you can put Wolfenstein on your Game Pass, why would you want our game? But I think it would be good to have for both them and us.
I understand. This is really not the best timing in the world.
I mean, to be fair, we were talking to them about it last August, or last July. This is like a long time ago, but yeah, they haven't said yes at any point. So we're not on Game Pass. You do have to spend money to play our game. I am sorry about that. I would love to put us on Game Pass, but that's their decision, not ours. So
we'll see. Some of us got connections to the right people. We'll see what we can do.
But yeah, they were last we talked. They were booked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. All I heard was that they were booked, so they're like, we couldn't even consider you for a while longer. Like, so it wasn't a we don't think your game is any good or anything. It was more of a we're full. So who knows, right? But I definitely hope we end up on Game Pass. Everybody I've talked to who's been on there or read things about everybody likes Game Pass. They like being on Game Pass. For some reason, sales go up when you get on Game Pass, not down. Like people think, oh, you can get it for free. Why would you pay for it? It seems like if people really like the games, they want to buy them. Or when they hear they're leaving Game Pass, they want to buy them. Or the visibility of Game Pass leads people who don't sub to Game Pass to choosing to buy them because that's when they get attention. So no one really knows exactly why, but Game Pass is good. So yeah, I do definitely want to be on there eventually.
Awesome. All right. So, I know I'm going to personally be pushing this game at least on whenever it does come out. I'll be pushing it on, or at least on Twitter account here, so you guys know. You guys can stay connected. Any other questions from the rest of the panel before we move on to the larger topics?
Given how small the game is, I don't really have any questions right now. Definitely after the fact. I'm sure I'm going to be blowing up Doc's DMs with a ton of questions, but I want to go in. I'm buying it on day one. I'm ready to experience it.
I definitely want people to blow up my DMs about it. If they play it, I want to hear. But
Oh, it was funny too because when you were talking about the tweet,
a person who doesn't play PC games, I will abstain temporarily, but the moment it comes on console, I'm going to play it.
Oh, it's on Xbox now. Well, it's going to be on Xbox soon. I know you're in between thinking about it. Where you want to
go. There we go.
So, but I do remember whenever you actually tweeted it out about that. I don't think if I responded or not to it, but I remember thinking about what was it? The sequel to Silence of the Lambs. The second one. Not Red Dragon.
Mason
it's
Verger.
Hannibal.
Verger.
That is what I thought.
Hannibal, yeah.
Because I live in North Carolina, so pig farming is a major thing here. I remember them saying like, "Hey, don't like fall asleep or like hang out around the pig pens too long." They never said why, but I remember seeing that movie and I was like, "Oh, that makes perfect sense."
Yep. There's also what's it called? A bunch of people like, oh, have you heard about Robert Picton? And it's like, yes, I've heard about that, but I don't really want the serial killer who kills people and feeds them to pigs associated with my game. And then there's also the line from what is it, Snatch, where he tells a story. At the end, he's like, the moral of the story: never trust a pig farmer. There's references to it, but it is a real life phenomenon. So I wasn't inspired by media. I was inspired by a real life story, and specifically the relationship there, the sadness, of like caring for your farm animals. Like if you raised a dog, right, and then your dog, ate you alive, you'd probably be sad, right? So it's taking that emotion and bringing that into the story that, for me, was really fascinating. But also, the events of this game drive the whole world forward. This is not the only game in my Tex-Mex universe. So to speak, there's the original game we were making, which was a bigger game, an action shooter about a vet who comes home and feels like the only thing he's good for is killing people until he falls in love. That's a game I still want to make. We had bullet time in Adios up until very recently when we cut it because of the shooter project, which had bullet time in it. But that character gets mentioned in Adios, and the El Camino becomes his several years later. Farmer gives it to him. The Hitman has his own game that I have planned. I actually planned it well before Adios, like maybe 3 or 4 years before, which is the idea of a guy on a beach somewhere, like selling food. I tweeted this on my old account years ago. He'd be doing like fried rice or something at like a little stand, and some guy would come up to him and be like, "Hey, I recognize you. You used to kill people for the mob, and I want you to kill somebody for me." But this is after he's like faked his death and gotten out of the life, right? So it's a game about getting dragged back into it. So that's a game I want to do. And then there's a game about the guy who's the hitman's assistant, and how the events of this story impact him, and how he ends up leading the mob by the very end. So I have all these stories that kind of spiral out from this one game, this one event, that you may see in the future or you may not. Who knows what we're going to make next? We might make a fucking tower defense game. I have no idea. So we'll see.
Right. I'm excited.
Right. And since this is a multiverse show, we have a couple questions that we ask everyone when they come on the show. First of all, what is your favorite game?
Oof, that's hard. It kind of waffles between Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl, modded with the AMK /complete /dynamic weather mod kit that I have. It's like a custom blend. AMK is the gameplay change, complete's the graphical change, weather is dynamic weather. It's pretty self-explanatory. So it's either that, which is still kind of, for me, in a lot of ways, the apex of what video games can be, because it is a real living, breathing world that you go into. It is the most dynamic and refreshing game world I've ever been in. It's either that, or it's Halo Combat Evolved, which is just a perfect video game, and I have replayed it so many times.
Solid answers. Follow
time and time. Yeah.
Next one. What is your favorite film?
Ooh, Once Upon a Time in the West.
Hot damn, that is the quickest answer we've had.
It might be Lestrada. It's one of those two. Once Upon a Time in the West is, the ultimate Western, right? Every Western made after Once Upon a Time in the West it's like they didn't know where to go, because Once Upon a Time in the West did everything that could be done. It is literally an aggregation of every Western that came before, right? Hank Fonda is the villain rather than, a Abraham Lincoln type of character that he tended to play, or the juror with a conscience in 12 Angry Men. This time he's just downright evil. You've got, Sergio Leone on the soundtrack. You've got, or sorry, not on the soundtrack. That's Morricone on the
Hello?
Western. Did we lose somebody?
No, I'm back.
It doesn't matter. Keep going.
Okay. You got all these incredible shots. Like there's references to The Searchers. There's references to so many movies, right? Like Once Upon a Time in the West is the perfect Western. And then we've got Lestrada, which is a movie about a strongman who buys a clown, or buys a girl and makes her into his clown. Like literally, she puts on face paint and does clown stuff. And then they travel around Italy after the war. And eventually he kills her because he's an abusive piece of crap. And the end of the movie is him just walking onto the beach and sinking down on his knees and crying. And it's a beautiful and sad movie. It's by Fellini, and the movie 8.5 is about making Lestrada. but to me, it's a perfect movie. Honestly, if you were to compare a lot of my works to anything, La Strada would be the one I'd want to be compared to. That's the one that I'm trying to live up to. You know, a lot of people, oh, this is like, David Lynch, or this is like, Silent Hill, or what. No, please compare me to La Strada. One day I'll get there too.
Well, one day we'll definitely have to have you back on, and you and I can just talk about who killed Pasolini for about 3 hours, and we'll just do that. And the final question that we ask every single person, because it is the only thing that we agree on in the Multiverse show: have you played What Remains of Edith Finch?
Twice. Yeah, I actually finished it again this year. Actually, yeah, I love that game.
There we go. There is no follow-up to that
game
question.
makes me cry every time.
It's,
I played through that game like 6 times by myself, and then I made every single person I've ever dated play that game. Maybe that's why they leave.
I will say this. I wrote an essay about I call it The Death of Walking Sims. The name is a reference to The Death of Adventure Games, which was an Old Man Murray piece that was kind of a legendary piece of games criticism. And it's really funny because the guy went on to write Portal. But I wrote kind of an in-depth essay on, like, here's why I think walking sims aren't selling as well. Like, Gone Home did like a bajillion copies, and then their next game, which even got a Game Informer cover, only did like 10,000 copies in a couple months. Like, just really bad sales, right? And so I kind of wrote about what I thought was happening and why. And my editor seems to like it, but then we passed along to somebody else at PC Gamer, to see what they thought. And they spiked the piece and like kind of implied maybe I was a bad person and I should turn it into a positive piece about what a great guy a certain walking sim developer who I won't name was, which is really interesting because I'd heard from other people who worked with him that he's a really bad person. But I didn't talk about that at all. I just, it was really interesting too, because I talked about a bunch of different walking sims and like why they weren't selling as well. Why did the Chinese room shut its doors? They're back open now. I think Sumo bought them or something.
Sumo.
Yeah, but like it was a bad time for walking sim dev. So I wrote about it. I was like, here's why I think this genre isn't working, and it needs verbs, right? We need games with verbs in them. You can't just walk through a space and hear a story told at you and think it's good. And I mentioned Edith Finch as one of the examples of where I thought the walking sim was going. And obviously then Paratopic, I was working on that, and that would come out a few months later and win a bunch of awards. So whoever at PC Gamer was like, how dare you say the walking sim is dying? I won awards. I win. I've how much more vindicated do I get to be, right? But I feel like Edith Finch really showed me where we can take narrative, right? Because a lot of walking sims, people praise them because they're narrative games, right? We go, oh, this game is about something that I like, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you're just walking and listening, right? That's not what I want.
Like Gone Home, or was it Ethan something? You don't do anything, you just walk around.
The
Vanishing of Ethan
Carter, yeah, that had some verbs in it, which was nice. But then there's,
what's the one I'm thinking
Dear
about?
Esther.
It's the one that's that's what it is. Dear Esther. It just started with an E.
Yeah.
Why do all these walkie sims have characters that start with E? Esther, Edith,
I don't know.
Ethan.
I don't know. That's a good point. But I will say that also a lot of horror games like that, where they, I do this thing called Bundlecraft Deathmatch, where I pop into a a bunch of bundle games that I have and just play them for a little bit to see what they're like and whether I'm going to enjoy them. And so many of the horror games are just walking sims. They play some spooky music, but it's really mechanically not that different. And it was like, I think we can do more. I think we can do differently. So, I'm sad that we had to cut photography from Adios. What we wanted to do initially was like let you look at the photos you took after you developed them, but we weren't sure we could get that to run on Xbox. So we ended up sort of spiking that. Maybe if we sell really, really well, we'll put that back in. But like the photography room is there. We can still do it. It's just we ended up not implementing the mechanics and focusing on like getting the port working. I think it's 4K 60. I'm not positive. I haven't played it on my Series X yet. I've only been playing it on my little 1S to test it.
Mhm. All right. So, great discussion.
But it's like games should be about doing things. So yeah, sorry for my
no. That delightful to hear a different perspective.
So that's why I love Edith. That's why I love Edith Finch. It's about doing things. It's about being a tentacle monster, being eating berries on your windowsill, catching bunnies. I realize I'm telling it all from one specific story.
Yeah.
Swinging around a thing and jumping off. It's all about doing stuff though, right? And that to me is what makes games interesting. That's what makes them what they are. You just have to be able to do things. So yes, I love that game, and there's my impassioned encouragement for anyone listening to play it if you haven't already. But I'm sure if you're listening to these guys, you already have. But yeah.
Yeah, we're big fans of Ian Dallas and Giant Sparrow in particular. So
maybe one day they'll tell us what they're working on.
Yep. Well, all we know, and the only thing he confirmed is that it's going to have a title of a bird in the name. That's all we know.
We know that actually, since we last talked about this, they have actually released some news.
Oh?
It's called, the project name is Heron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
As in the bird. But beyond that, really nothing. The only thing that they've said is they're focusing on the enchanting beauty of animal locomotion. And you know what? I'm in. Just kidding.
All right.
When I was getting physical therapy, I learned a lot about musculoskeletal systems, so animal locomotion is fascinating to me.
Nice. All right, so we got to get into some of these other topics.
Definitely know to have you on when we have a Heron spoiler cast.
Hell yeah.
All right, so we're gonna get into some of these other topics real quick because we're gonna hold off on the WandaVision one. We're gonna do a dedicated show to that probably next week. So right now we're gonna talk about the quick little news.
It seems like this podcast was going so well until it just something. Who's been messing up everything?
Oh, don't.
I'm just waiting to play it.
It was Agatha all along.
I knew we were waiting for that joke to come up. I was just waiting for something to happen. All right, so real quick, we're going to talk about the quick news that came out today that was kind of hinted at. It's a fairly short one-note kind of thing. We heard that Xbox is getting their first big AAA third-party developer Game Pass launching game. So right now, they have announced that Outriders will be launching in Game Pass. For reference, they are not owned by Microsoft in any way, shape, or form. And at this point in the game, we probably should start off with that. When describing other studios, not owned by Microsoft. So they decided they were going to be launching directly into Game Pass for console only. So if you're on PC, you still have to buy the game if you want to play. Same thing with PlayStation, but it's only on console right now, and they're doing it through xCloud to play on mobile right now. So that's a nice little bump for Xbox people in general. Just real quick, we'll do our general impressions. James, we'll start with you. What do you think?
Is this the one that I haven't played it? I'll tell you right now. But I have seen footage of it, and I think this is the one where the guy says, "I'm a goddamn electro freak." Is that
I don't remember that one. I only played one thing as a Devastator, but I can see that one.
I think that might be right. I played the demo, but I don't remember the dialogue much because I was having too much fun turning people into skeletons.
Again, I haven't played it, so I can't tell you what it's like to play. But I'm almost certain, I'm prepared to be wrong on this, that someone says, "I'm a goddamn electro freak," and I just think that's a great phrase, and I wish I came up with it.
Big mood.
Yep. So yeah, I played the demo. I liked the demo enough. I didn't really go play super deep into it, but I was like, "Yep, looks okay to me." Not like a kind of thing I go hyping up on Twitter or anything, but looks good. I'm happy it's coming to Game Pass, so that's good for them. Sam, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, People Can Fly has made some good stuff in the past. They understand gunplay really well. I saw some stuff about Outriders that it kind of looked a little generic in certain ways, and there was other stuff like some of the loading screens. Like it's gone around on Twitter. It's kind of infamous at this point, but like the cut scene of the dude jumping and it goes to black both before before and after, and it's like a 4-second cutscene. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, there's that. I didn't get a chance to play the demo. I know a lot of people say the gunplay and especially the powers are cool. So I say all that to say this is not a game I probably would have dropped $60 on. I was probably going to wait until it, dropped in price or whatever. But now, Game Pass? Yeah, I'll download it. I'll play it. And worth noting as well, it has full crossplay with any platform. Like, it doesn't matter what platform you're on. You can play together with your friends in 3-player co-op.
Excellent.
So that is, well worth considering. So yeah, I mean, there's no downside. And I think it's also interesting strategy-wise when you look at what Microsoft is doing, right? And you look at, and I have to be careful because I could go off for a really long time about this. You can kind of see Phil Spencer and Matt Booty's overall plan coming together where it's like, okay, you have these two publishers now that are in-house, Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda. And they're the first party. But then you also are making deals where it's like every EA game now comes to Game Pass Ultimate on a time. Like, it's a few months later, a couple months, several months, whatever. But eventually every EA game comes over there that way with EA Play. And now you see, like, okay, there's this long stretch where we don't have any big games releasing. We're going to make a deal for a third party. Like, this is the biggest third-party game they've gotten on the service day one so far. So, I don't know, it's just interesting to see how they're kind of almost weaponizing Game Pass, where it's like, if you're a third party, you seriously want to consider being on there. Indies, like Doc said, and what well put, have been singing Game Pass's praises for a long time, but big third parties and your AAA stuff and your big budget games kind of haven't. So it's an interesting shift to see them working on that angle now. That's what I find more interesting about this whole thing, is the business side of it.
Yeah, I think you're definitely
I've
right.
got some interesting insight into Game Pass because I talked with a Microsoft exec about it a while ago.
Dish the dish.
Well, the short version, as we were talking about, I was like, so what's the end point of streaming specifically, right? And he's like, eventually we are going to hit a point where people just, as many people who are going to buy consoles are buying consoles, and then you have all the other people who want to play games but aren't going to buy consoles. And we want to make sure that we are getting games to as many people as possible. So the impression that I get is that Game Pass is for them a way to go, even further beyond, to use the Dragon Ball phrase, even further beyond what we, how do I put this? Like, what console market penetration can do, right? That's what the goal is to reach as many people as possible, not only with, because the way streaming would work is to help people who aren't going to buy the console specifically, but also, people who aren't necessarily going to try certain games, right? Game Pass is the best excuse to try games you would never spend money on otherwise. It kind of shores up bad or non-existent marketing. And so the impression that I'm getting from like people I've spoken with at Microsoft or people who are trying similar services is that this is about expanding the number of people playing games. So that's why they're trying to get, it's not just this is a great reason to buy a Microsoft product, but this is a great reason to turn people, or this is a great way to turn people into gamers with as minimal risk to them as possible. Because the $60 game and, a $1,000 TV and a $500 console is a lot of money, right? But, if you can be like, hey, if you sub to the service for like $15 a month and you can play it on your phone, suddenly it's like, oh, okay, I really like this. But, I really want to play it on a TV. I really maybe want to try an Xbox now. I think that's what the goal is, right? Trojan horsing it.
Yeah, it lowers the barrier of entry.
Yep.
Once you get them, you got them. Kind of like when Netflix used to do their really low introductory price, so that you found out they had tiers and such. And it was like, wow, they got all these movies here. I don't want to go. Like, hey, maybe if I split the cost between 4 people and we pay for the big 4K 4-person streaming, we can do that. But it opens up so many lanes for them. Right. Right. So next little bit, because there's not much really to say on that one. Thank you for the insight, though. That's great. I really appreciate that. So the other one, the big news that happened that Microsoft made a big deal about all last week is Bethesda. The deal has gone through. It is done. The paper is dry, or the ink on the paper is dry in this case. It got approved through the EU. It's definitely going to happen. They finally finished everything off, and we got some big announcements. Sam, so I know they did the roundtable talk on Thursday last week. Can you do a brief recap for us real quick?
Yeah, so extremely brief recap, and seriously, you should watch it. It wasn't news focused, but it's a very wholesome insight. Like what they did is they talked with Matt Booty, head of XGS Studios, but then they also talked with Todd Vaughn, who's like the vice president of development. I think he's under James Altman, the late Robert Altman's son. He's actually the director of publishing, but they talked with Todd Vaughn, who's like his right-hand guy. They talked with Aaron Greenberg, Pete Hines, Todd Howard, the God Howard himself, of course. And it was basically just about how this deal came to be, over the last few years, them working together to this point where they bring Bethesda into Xbox. And then they go around the room and digitally tune in, like, with all the different studio heads. So they got, like, Shinji Mikami in Japan with Tango Gameworks. They talk to him, the guys at Arcane, like Dinga Bakaba. It's great stuff. So please go check it out if you haven't yet. It's a very wholesome, relaxed sit down about what Bethesda being first party means. But the only real big news bit that came out is that Phil, now that they can actually legally address these issues, talked about what would happen with games, I can't talk, moving forward. And I'm going to paraphrase, but basically what he said is, look, we have contractual obligations. I can't sit here and tell you all the Bethesda games are going to be exclusive. Like, he can't name them legally on an Xbox stream, but we know Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo are timed PS5 console exclusives and all that. So that's what he means by contractual obligations. He said, however, after that, the deal, the core of the deal, the root of it, the root was the exact word he used, is about making exclusive games on platforms where Game Pass exists, aka Xbox and PC. So there you go. Hashtag Sam was right.
That does sound like pressure, though, right? To get Game Pass on other platforms.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. Doc, absolutely. Like, it is very much a, hey, Jim Ryan, you want these games? Let's come talk. Like, and Jim Ryan will not, like, even remotely, like, ever agree. I think maybe Nintendo would. I think there's more of a chance they could cut a deal with Nintendo than there is with PlayStation. But that is a good observation. Like, where Game Pass exists is very specific phrasing for a very specific reason. No question.
That to me sounds like it's specifically an invitation, right? I suspect. See, I wrote an article for US Gamer a long time on the history of the Xbox and why Xboxes are actually pretty cool. And when I was writing it, my editor made me cut a line where I said the PlayStation is kind of a basic bitch console. And obviously I'm making a reference to the Patrick Warburton, comedy sketch, right? Where he tells the lady she's been diagnosed with being a basic bitch. But a lot of people, I mentioned this offhanded once, and a lot of people on a forum that I won't name took that as, oh, he hates PlayStation. It says, no. The PlayStation is very safe. They even, when the Xbox One came out, right? Remember what they did? They were all like, hey, we have game sharing too. And they just handed a disc to the other guy in a video. That was what, Jack Tretton and Shuhei, I think?
No, it was Adam Boyes and Shuhei.
Yeah.
Oh, that's who it was. Yeah. So you had these, you have Sony sort of always playing it safe. They're like, this is a thing you put under your TV, you put a disc in, it plays games. It's very conservative. And gamers like that. Gamers are fundamentally conservative people. They don't like change. It's why they mock, any new technology that comes out. Like they mocked Waggle. They mocked, and not that all these things are good, but people even mocked, dual analog controls when it came out. Somebody reviewed the first dual analog game, which was an Alien game. They said, perhaps the scariest thing about this game is that it uses dual analog sticks, right? Gamers always are resistant to change. And Sony has always capitalized on that. That's what their success is conservatism. But we're already saying that Sony's like, ooh, we actually probably should have a Game Pass. Like, here's our, 12 free games. It's nothing compared to Game Pass, but it is. They're starting it up. They're much slower, just like they were slower on achievements, just like they were slower on downloadable games. They've always, Sony's always behind everybody else in tech, except for CDs.
Didn't PS Now, wasn't that a thing before?
It was, but the model wasn't the same, though. That's the only difference.
But it was.
The model was not the same, and so for them, I think that's the thing with PlayStation too.
Yeah. Well, they bought Gaikai specifically, the streaming service. There were two services out. I can't remember what the one was, but it was more famous. And then there was Gaikai that was competing, and Sony bought them and like let stream games. That service hasn't. It's made enough money for Sony to keep it around, but it hasn't made enough money to actually like be the thing. But that was streaming directly to the console as opposed to Game Pass, where you have a library that you can download whenever you want. Now they added a library later.
Yeah.
But it's only for like a few games. Game Pass was Microsoft going, we're going all in on this. We're going to do this and make this like a big thing. I think Sony is pivoting very slowly to that service, and their current PS5 like instant library thing is step number 1, and they'll get there. But I wouldn't say that Jim Ryan is fully opposed to that. I think they knocked backward compatibility when they were ahead, and I mean they're still ahead, but they knocked it when they were ahead, and they didn't think it was necessary. And now they're realizing, oh wait, having a huge library like that is really good for licensing and having a service. Like you don't just want current games. You can make money off those old properties. They don't have to sit there in stasis, never being released. You can keep making money off of them. And I think they're starting to realize, ooh, that's actually a big thing. So, Sony is eventually likely going to bring PS1 games forward. Part of the reason their PS2 games are slow is because they try to manually add achievements to all of them, and they should just bring them forward. They can emulate so many more games of the games that they're currently selling for PS3 that are PS2 games like God Hand, if they just brought them forward. Because they want to patch them all with trophies, it's taking long. So they could build a really strong competitor to Game Pass immediately, but because they were ahead by being basic, that for them was good writing on the wall. I think they see that Microsoft is going to make a lot of money just selling more consoles, and suddenly they're realizing that software is the name of the game and not hardware. Sony is a hardware company, Microsoft's a software company. Microsoft knows what they're doing here to do this, and they have the library to do this. They just haven't deployed it yet. So I think Jim Ryan's smart enough to make it happen, but I think they, don't like taking risks, and now they're realizing they have to. But it is really sad that they're killing Japan Studio for this. Like, they shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, that is a fairly sad thing that's happened to them. Go ahead, Sam.
Japan Studio is a kind of weird conversation. I just want to say really quickly, because it's like legacy-wise, I agree. It's just that in reality, Japan Studio hasn't been a thing for a long time. Like, Japan Studio, can anyone here name the last game they made on their own? And I don't mean as a collaboration where like 5 guys oversaw From Software on Bloodborne.
Was that
Astrobot?
I think it would be Astrobot, but that studio is spun off now. What about Gravity Rush 2?
Yeah, it was Gravity Rush 2. Like it was 2017, and before that, because I think Gravity Rush 2 came out later. It was Knack 2. Like, it's just they haven't been a real thing for a long time. I agree with you legacy-wise. I think PlayStation is absolutely losing something in their legacy. It's just like this has been the case for a long time. A lot of the guys who worked on those games just haven't been there for a long time. And I think it's just sort of them making it official.
There's a mix of things happening there, though, right? Part of it is, rumors I've been hearing that people who have kind of power now within Sony have pushed more for more Western games because, The Last of Us and Spider-Man things, those sold really well. So they're pushing more towards that, which is going to lose the thing that I think made Sony. You still need the unique stuff, right? Like, Netflix still put on a David Lynch short about investigating a monkey who may have committed a murder, even though they also have Stranger Things. You have to have a healthy mix of interesting and blockbuster. You can't just make blockbusters because it won't work. Like you need, it's like like farmers growing crops, right? You have to have some crop rotation in there for your soil to be healthy.
I think it's an interesting space because, in terms of a budget level, an indie film, and a big film like an Avengers film, they're wild. But the price for the consumer is the same. Mm-hmm. But for an indie game and a AAA game, the price can be radically different, and yet people often gravitate towards it's an interesting one.
Yep.
Game pricing is very strange in that regard. We're releasing Adios for $18 because I figured if people thought it was $20, they'd be like, oh, that's too much. But $17.99, you look at that, maybe that'll convince you it's okay to buy. 20 might feel like, ooh, this is outside of my impulse range.
I was doing a whole thing about
$14.99.
I was like $17.99. What does that stand for? Does that mean something? $17.99?
No, it was about trying to make it fit within somebody's impulse buy range.
Yeah.
While feeling like they got a good amount for it. Like that's like two people going to McDonald's or something, right? Unless they're all ordering from the dollar menu. Or Arby's maybe, right? It's not a lot. It's me getting one dish and an app at Noodles and Company. Like, it's a little bit of money. I know a lot of people will be like, oh, but this is like, a 2-hour game or whatever. Like, I can spend, $15 on Loop Hero and play for 100 million years and, die because I never leave my chair. It's a very addictive game, by the way. And, it's like, sure, but, this is what it costs us to make the game and we need to make our money back. And we're making something different. We hope you like it. But also, because when we do a discount, like I want it to $14.99 or so, as the sort of the initial discount, and that'll be a while. I'm not going to deep discount like in a month. This is not Anthem, okay?
Or Titanfall
2. Thank you for mentioning all those other food places, by the way. We are sponsored by Yoshinoya Beef Bowl, so I just wanted to say that.
God, I want a beef bowl now. Why'd you do that to me?
No, we're co-sponsored by Popeye's Chicken. What's wrong with you?
God, I wish. Now I want Popeye. I don't know. It's like pricing games is always gonna be really hard, but like the budget for our game is way less than Christopher Nolan's first movie, right? I'm not talking about Following. I'm talking about Memento, right?
Yeah.
Like his budget's like 10, 20 times what we had, and his box office is only $40 million, which isn't huge, but movies can get sold on DVD and then later Blu-ray and then have streaming rights and all this other stuff, and games don't really have that. Like movies have infinite income, basically. No movie loses money. It might fail at the box office, but it will not lose money. But I mean, he had a $4.5 million budget. If I had a $4.5 million budget, trust me, I would build some very wild stuff, right? But it's movie pricing is really weird. But our game costs less than it costs to go to a movie theater, so I'm hoping people buy.
There's the sell.
I want to sell enough copies.
I set it up and you knocked it in.
If I can sell 500 copies, I get to buy Monster Hunter Rise. So everyone, please buy stuff so I can get Rise.
All right.
I said if we did 100,000 copies, we would open the Storm Shelter too in the game. So if you want an expansion, we need to sell 100,000 copies.
The Storm Shelter expansion.
Yep.
Release the Storm Shelter cut.
Oh my god. I will say one thing about the Snyder cut, because apparently it's out. I thought it was coming out tomorrow, but apparently it's out now. If
reviewers got to see it.
Reviewers got to see it.
Review
Gotcha. If it comes out and it's not like, if it's just as good, or if not like a good movie, I'm gonna laugh. Like, there's just so much stuff that happened with Justice League in particular. I firmly do not believe that all the stuff that's going to be in the Snyder Cut was created and thought of before the actual release of the movie. I think they're viewing this not only as we're going to put the stuff that was originally planned for the original movie, but we're also fixing the rest of the movie, after the fact it released and listening to fan feedback. And so if it's not if it's not better than the original, I'm gonna laugh so hard. I don't know. I found the whole campaign of harassing people beforehand for a stupid cut was dumb.
They almost definitely are taking all the chances they can get and using all that feedback to make a better movie. But I have this sense that it's going to be a very by committee movie.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting, a lot of fans, a lot of the people who, make like Twitter accounts that are like superhero movie, blah, blah, blah. I'm expecting those people to like the movie because of a lot of fan service. But I'm expecting it'll be like, Rise of Skywalker, where it succeeds briefly and then just kind of fades away. A friend of mine in the movie industry says the problem with Hollywood is they start to believe social media is all there is. They believe it's real. the actual demand for Snyder Cut outside of social media is almost non-existent. So I hope it fails. Not because I want all the people who worked on it to fail, but I hope it fails because I want Hollywood to realize you can't just tinker with movies until they're good.
Yeah.
You have to just, like, strong pre-production, less tinkering, you can make a better movie. If you're constantly jumping in with people who don't even know how to tell stories to, like, tweak little things. This is a dude who has a mountain of skulls in his office because he thought it was cool. He does not make good movies. He has never made a good movie. He makes garbage, and he treats people like garbage. I don't want him to succeed. You know,
I firmly believe with Zack Snyder, his thing, he's good at adaptation if he has a very strict thing to follow. But if you let him start changing the scripts,
editors and stuff,
no.
He's literally Michael Bates here, but people see, oh, look, a picture of, Superman standing in front of a picture of Jesus. It's symbolism. Oh. No, it's like baby's first, symbolism. But
it's subtext. This is text, sir.
Yeah, it is text. This movie needs to fail for the executives. They're the ones who need to go, oh, wait, maybe this isn't the right way to make movies. Because if this succeeds, it could spell doom for how movies get made. If you thought adaptations were bad, like constantly adapting like Dukes of Hazzard or whatever, if you thought that was bad, this will make it worse if it's a huge success.
I mean, they already have sort of cauterized this wound because they announced that Zack's not making any more movies in the DC world.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
I already saw this one thing about
from on high. That is happening.
I got in this little Twitter sub thing, this little subcurrent where they're now I'm now privy to certain social media plans. They're planning that for the day after the Snyder Cut drops, they want to push for a Justice League Part 2. Specifically, they want to have a sequel to Justice League, but have it be made by Zack Snyder, which wouldn't you just call that a sequel instead of a Part 2? But then just think about how meta weird that would be. Just think about how weird that would be just as a concept. So Justice League, the movie that people went out to the theaters to see, that made what, like $800 million, something like that.
No, it did not make $800 million.
I thought it was $800 million. Which one am I thinking 800 was?
It might have had a box office.
Are you thinking of Batman v Superman?
Yep, I think I'm thinking about that one. Yeah, because I remember they said it was going to break $1 billion.
The box office of Justice League is $657.9 million apparently.
So they're thinking
the lowest grossing film of the DC Extended Universe.
Yep, but that's the one that's made them. Well, at least for them. If people went to go see a sequel that's not based on that movie, so just basing it on the Snyder Cut, which not a lot of people are going to see in the long run of things, think about how weird that would be just trying to explain it to somebody. Like, I know if I could take my dad to go see it, I'd be like, hey, Dad, you want to go see Justice League Justice League 2?
It would be as weird as trying to tell someone to go and see Blade Runner 2049 and then say, oh, no, you have to watch this version of Blade Runner.
Yeah. Or be like, hey, Dad, you want to go just see Justice League 2? You can't see Justice League 2, but you got to see Justice League 1. But you can't watch the one that actually came out in theaters that you could buy on Blu-ray. You actually got to subscribe to HBO Max to watch the remake of that first movie, so then you can understand the second one. It's like,
oh my God.
That's just so difficult. And like, I know, if that thing succeeds, I guarantee you Disney's going to do the same thing with Star Wars. I know they've been talking about this for a while, about trying to redo the Star Wars sequel trilogy in some way.
I vehemently disagree, at least on that particular angle. The Star Wars future is in series. Like, with the success of The Mandalorian, like, they've made it very, very clear.
Yep.
The future of Star Wars is doing shows.
Rian Johnson is still getting his trilogy, though.
Oh, sure.
Like he is still getting a trilogy.
Sure.
I firmly believe, because I enjoyed Last Jedi for pure chaos reasons. Just because it ruined everyone's expectations of things. I enjoyed it. But I think you give him his own trilogy that has nothing to do with the main stuff, he'll be great.
I still think The Last Jedi is fucking brilliant.
I mean, I remember watching it before any of the drama came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea what to expect. I knew the guy had made Brick, and I knew he'd made, Brothers Bloom, which are two of my favorite movies. I went and I
seen
watched
Looper.
it, and I saw this movie about, I don't like Looper. It's the only movie of his I don't like,
Oh.
actually.
Oh, really? That's okay.
Why?
I think it's because I don't like Bruce Willis.
I was gonna say, does it have something to do with taking care of bodies for the mob? Is that what it is?
No. I mean, I guess that is the point. I also don't like the psychic child trope. I hate that trope.
Yeah,
so
it's
it's a
annoying.
personal thing. Like, I can't say it's a poorly executed movie. I can just say it has Bruce Willis and psychic children, my two least favorite things. Which is probably why I don't like The Sixth Sense either. Anyways,
Yeah, I've never
there's
thought
a
of
very
it that way.
specific genre there, isn't there? I watched it and it was like, here's a fighter pilot who's like, screw you, authority, I can do this no matter what, right? And then he falls on his ass because in real life, right, if you tell your boss, screw you, I'm gonna ignore safety regulations at work, and then people die, you get fired. Like, you don't end up, disobeying people and then being right. That rarely happens. The reason that chain of command exists is because it's designed to protect people. And so the movie goes through that. It kind of disassembles the entire, like, dirty, hairy view of reality. It ended up doing things that movies don't do, right? And then a lot of the feedback I saw early on before they got to that subversion of expectations thing, which is really funny because I actually said that after watching the movie. I was like, oh my God, it's such a great subversion of expectations. And then later that was like the discourse. I was like, shit, did I do that? I don't think I did, though. I think that was Red Letter Media who did. But, like, when you make a movie that kind of goes, here's what the realistic response, like the character-driven, these are what these people would do based on everything we know about them response, rather than like, this is what movies do, so we expect it to happen thing happens. Yeah. That's exciting. Like, when somebody makes a decision because of who they are, it's way more interesting than if a thing happens because you've seen it in other movies. But I saw these people going like, no, Rey needs to be Obi-Wan's daughter. Like, why? Because it would make space smaller, right? It makes this huge galaxy really tiny. Also, Obi-Wan is a virgin because he's a Jedi. Come on, obviously. Duh, they don't fuck. But like,
okay, I'm not. I won't fight you on that.
I'm just
that man. I'll save that battle for another day.
What was I going to say?
I'm saying it because it's funny. Don't put too much stock in it. But it's a movie that kind of goes, what would happen if these people, based on what we know of them as people, would do? So like, Leia is incredible, and the fact that she's not like the generic, turn in your badge and gun leader, but she's actually like, after she knocks him out, she's like, he's going to be a great leader one day. Everything you need to know about both her and Poe. Like, she's a supportive leader. She didn't just say, don't do this because I'm your boss. And there's so many people like, well, she should have shared his plan so he wouldn't have fucked up. But no, he got people killed. It's his fault that they died. Like, would you share intel with somebody who got your people killed? I wouldn't. Like, who would? Nope. Who would go, you know what? That guy who fucked everything up, he needs to know our plans. You wouldn't do that. It's unsafe. So for me, I really love the movie because it was all these people doing what they would do because of who they are. And I thought, I wish we'd gotten more Finn. Yep. Like, I wish we'd gotten so much more Finn. That's kind of, I think, the big thing for me is that we didn't get enough Finn. I think that, a lot of people complain about the planet being kind of on the nose. Totally agree with that. But it's such a good movie. And the fact that he's getting a trilogy is exciting to me.
Oh, Finn's getting a trilogy?
People are like, oh, well, not Finn, sorry, Rian Johnson, the director.
I was
he's
like,
getting
what?
A whole trilogy. Yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, but nobody liked The Last Jedi, so it's not going to do well. It's like, did you forget that it's like one of the highest grossing movies in the entire series, and it was the best media release of the entire year, like, after it came out? Like, no other Blu-ray sold as much. That's crazy. People love that movie. People love Rian Johnson. He's done like some of the best episodes of Breaking Bad. Like, this guy knows what's up. Like, the people who are mad are the people who wanted Star Wars to be predictable. They're the people who wanted the prequel trilogy to be, oh, Anakin made C-3PO. I think that ruins the story. Just like Solo. It's the people who wanted Solo, and then when they watched it, they were like, I don't want this. But they did want it. It's what they complain about. They want to know the origin of Han Solo's blaster. They want the cringe-inducing, like, my name is Solo because I'm alone. They want that stupid bullshit, and then they get mad when they get the stupid bullshit because it's not what they actually wanted. They don't know what they want. That's the worst thing about fans. Fans don't know what they want till you give it to them.
Yeah.
Right.
And
we're gonna have you at the end of the year for our end of the year movie special, and I'm just gonna get you and Jonathan from films and stuff, and I'm just gonna be like, all right, go.
I'm sorry. I can ramble so much. I'm sorry.
My only thing about Last Jedi,
it's fantastic.
My only thing about Last Jedi, I think it would make it a better film, is only one small change, and it's making Rose Tico the mole. Where it makes everything make sense, like why they go to that planet for no reason in particular, and just why it was a big waste of time to have got someone away from there. It also explains why Holdo's on this whole big thing about condensing all the information going around. It helps put everything else in line. And also it makes sense why she would randomly stop Finn from sacrificing himself to save everyone else. You can say, oh, it's love or whatever, but it would make sense. Like, yeah, I helped the First Order. But I think
it would definitely make more sense than somehow the Emperor returned. But
yeah, that I do not envy J.J. Abrams whatsoever.
Actress, though, and
oh, good.
I mean, J.J. Abrams is the guy who on the Star Trek movie, the guy plays what's his name, Chris Pine, right? Chris Pine did that scene where he runs in, he's like, "You did this in your doctoral thesis. This is some time travel, blah blah." Well, he during that recording of that scene, he runs in there and he says it, and then he looks at J.J. Abrams and he goes, "I don't know what I'm saying. What does this even mean? Why am I saying this?" And J.J. Abrams said to him, "It doesn't matter. Nothing you say matters. If you say it intensely, that's all the audience will care about." And that's how J.J. Abrams thinks about his movies. But can you really say that, like, Super 8 stuck with you? Do you remember the plot or the emotions of that movie? Do you really remember his specific Mission Impossible more than other Mission Impossible movies? I think a lot of what
I will take the point on Mission Impossible. I maintain that Mission Impossible 3 is a very, very good film.
I do enjoy it. I think.
And on the point of Super 8, I completely agree with like the actual like what happens in that movie. I will say the train scene where they're filming before the alien escapes and Elle Fanning does that scene. That's great because it's character stuff.
Yeah, I think what J.J. Abrams cares about is just getting an immediate emotional reaction, but there's no meat there, right? It's I don't want to say it's saccharine, but it's very. It doesn't have a lot of weight to it. It's more of, like going into a haunted house and just having somebody go boo at you and then you jump in the moment. But like in hindsight, it wasn't that scary. I think that's how J.J. Abrams works. And that's how he's told his actors to work. So his movies don't last. And generally what he's doing is copying things he's seen before. He's really at that's what he's best at. He can do really evocative scenes, like really emotionally powerful ones, like the pilot to Lost. But he doesn't really know what he wants. He doesn't really know where he's going. And so I think he creates things that are very empty, that feel powerful in the moment, and he's very good at that. And then a little bit later, you're like, wait, why did I care?
Like a box with a mystery inside of it.
Yeah, that TED Talk is one of the worst. So he's, but he also only writes stories about magic blood and kids who have parents that matter, right? Like that's it. So, yeah.
Right.
Who knows?
I love this discussion, but we got to wrap things up because I know James has got to go to bed and Sam's got to go to work. So we're gonna do our outros real quick. Yeah, no, it's fine. No, I love this discussion. It's been great. We'll do our outros real quick. Sam, where can the good people find you, sir?
Yeah, unfortunately, you can still find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. That's Tolbert. And you can find everything I'm writing over on Windows Central, Android Central, and iMore. And thanks again, Doc, for coming out here. Like, seriously, your rambles are the best. I mean that in a positive way, full force, 100%.
I am very grateful because that's what I want, right? Is to leave people something that hopefully they enjoy. I don't want to just waste time, right? Probably why I make short games.
And James, where can people find you, sir?
The good people and the bad people and all the people in between can find me on Twitter at James_S Wilson. Come talk to me about Formula One. It's that time of the year, baby, and the awards gremlin, of course. And I didn't mention earlier, but I should have. Riz Ahmed, the actor most known for playing the lead in The Night of, the US miniseries, he got an Oscar nomination as the first Muslim actor to be nominated as lead actor. So well done him. Go buy Doc's game. And
Doc, where can people connect with you, sir?
Oh my God. Well, I write really, really long essays on docseuss.medium.com. You can find me at Doc Squiddy on Twitter. You can follow my studio if you don't like my incredible amount of tweets. You can follow my studio at Mischief Develop, I want to say.
We don't.
Yes,
you should know that.
I should know that, but I usually just use this account switcher. So I'm not really paying attention to my own at. Yeah, at Doc Squiddy or at Mischief Develop if you just want the game stuff. And apparently maybe I'll be back here at an end of the year film thing if they want me. So
we always encourage you if you want to jump on and ramble about anything, just let me know.
I do love rambling. But yes, please buy my game Adios on either Steam or Xbox. If it's coming to other platforms, I couldn't tell you, but I can say that we are going to be. I'm working on the store page for itch.io right now. Some people asked me today, what's the where place you can get the best cut? I would say if you buy it a bunch on Xbox, Microsoft will probably go, hey, we want you on Game Pass, and that would really help. If we're really real success there, they might want to give us more money for the future. So that's also really cool. So, Xbox really helps us. Otherwise, itch, you can set how much money goes to the store and how much money goes to us. If you want, you could buy the game for $1,000 because you can actually set your own price above what we said. So, if you want to help out, itch is the best way to help, not just me, but any game developer you buy stuff from. It's a great storefront. And we are going to include Steam keys with all of that. Steam is just kind of the default thing. They take a third of our income without doing anything but distributing our game. So that's what that is. If we go to Epic or GOG, those are both great platforms for cut, but I can't announce anything yet, even if we were talking to them. So
yeah,
I'm in a lot of places. Sorry.
All right. Yep. And Anchorman V2, you can find me on Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, same gamer tag. You find me on Twitter at Multiverse Show. Because at least as of right now, Twitter has not decided in their great infinite wisdom to release my account.